I just remember one of the young soldiers that was in my platoon. His wife relapsed into drug abuse while he was gone, based on the stress of the deployment, him being gone, not having that support structure in place, and there was a little girl whose welfare was at stake. And there's always a huge balancing act between, they call it, what is it called? Welfare of the soldier versus accomplishing the mission. And those two things tend to be counterproductive to each other. So a commander has to be thinking about the fact that there is a mission at stake. They're going to be judged on their hires based on whether or not they meet the mission standards. But often it's contrary to the welfare of the individual soldiers to accomplish the mission. And in the case of career soldiers, in our case, the captain and the first sergeant that were making a career for themselves, it meant keeping the numbers high. So making sure that you had full strength in your company and not releasing the soldier and letting him go home to take care of personal business, which he desperately needed to do. So, and
You didn't let him go?
I can't remember at what level it got to, but I think there at one point Congress people got involved, and we got him out eventually, but it took months, before they said, yeah, we can let you go. So, and that's just, I mean, there's infidelity of the yin yang, and it goes both ways. It's not only the people that are behind left at home, but it's also soldiers overseas. Just having that separation. Early on, we were part of the invading force for Iraq, and communication hadn't been set up. There was no access to internet. We had a satellite phone available, I think, maybe once a week, and so you probably wait in line 2 or 3 hours competing for a 10 or a 5-minute phone call. And I didn't even attempt. I told my mom, if you don't hear anything from me or from anyone, it's a good thing. And that certainly didn't help her any at all.
Oh, no.
Because my sister, she's, maybe freshman, sophomore in high school at the time, and she and my mom are watching the news, and I contend that it is truly harder on the people that are stateside because they see the news reports, and of course the news only reports things that are sensational, dangerous. They don't get to see the day-to-day life you go through and how. I believe it's more dangerous to drive in the highways of America than it is to deploy as a soldier, just based on fatality rates. Now, maybe if you took ratios of complete population versus how many people are dying on the highways, maybe it doesn't balance out quite, but I still think it's more dangerous to get in the car every day. That doesn't help a parent at all. So it's harder for people that are left behind because they're left guessing, and yeah, I don't.
Thinking the worst all the time.
Yeah. And so they're going to reach out and find coping mechanisms, and often that leads to unhealthy behavior. And so the Army is just a shredder for relationships. So the unwritten casualties of all this, and we are paying more attention to the soldiers and not only their physical and emotional needs coming back, but we have a generation of kids that are being shredded by this as well, just because of broken relationships between parents. What is the relationship then? What's the dynamic like when their father or mother does come back from war? How seamlessly does that transition take place? Because, the parent that is home takes over a huge responsibility and picks up a lot of the slack of the roles that were once divided. And so it's apparently, I've never experienced it, but apparently it's pretty difficult then to transition back and to relinquish some of that role, and then for the service member who's returning to then be patient about reintegrating and understanding that they led completely separate lives and went on while you were doing your thing too. So.